Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining on this special edition of FSMA Friday, right before one of the biggest American food-focused holidays, Thanksgiving. Now, we're continuing our theme of audit readiness this month by focusing today's presentation on the importance of internal audits. And we know that they're important, but it's just so darn difficult sometimes to do them as often as we'd like, or even do them well. So we're here to help with that today. Now, we have many folks that are new to this series, and we appreciate you joining us today. FSQA Friday, it's a monthly webinar hosted by Safety Chain and the Acheson Group, and we've partnered to provide a resource for all of you in the food and beverage supply chain to learn about methodologies and tools that will help you meet FSMA requirements. But this also is your chance to ask questions direct to the food safety experts over at the Acheson Group. Now, as you all know, if you've been here before, we are definitely leaving room at the end for Q&A, and we are recording this presentation. But to make sure that we get through all of the material, we've muted everybody's mic. And we'll definitely, if we run out of time, we'll definitely get some of the follow-up questions back to you. So don't worry if we didn't get to it during the course of the presentation. All right. Now, you may have noticed that we have back with us Ranjeet Klair, who graciously stepped in to give this presentation as Cameron Prince is now unavailable to make it on this topic. But there's no better replacement for Cam because Ranjeet is the food safety director at the Acheson Group and has helped with audit-related content. If you were on last month's FSMA Friday, you heard her talking about how to prepare for a regulatory or GFSI recognized certification audit. So this topic fits in perfectly with her expertise. She's an active trainer for many food safety programs such as BRC, PCQI, HACCP, Food Fraud and Food Defense, and so much more, and has completed over 200 audits over the last 20 years. So Ranjeet, thanks again for coming back and talking to us today about audits.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, I know we have some FSMA updates, so why don't we dive in and then we'll get to our core topic. Here we go.
Perfect. Yeah, so in terms of FSMA updates, we have picked two out of so many. The first one was that a new approach to inspections and increased flexibility in adding suppliers and foods are the key components for updated FSMA rule, voluntary qualified importer program, VQIP, released on November 14th, and the intention of the overall of FDA is to streamline process, enhance flexibility, and elevate the program's efficiency, which can help industry effectively to approve the suppliers and the importer program. Second is updates on disinfection and container refill, reuse, food defense, food safety management systems, active managerial controls, employee sickness related to work-related, sushi rice acidification. All of those publications are now, there is so much valuable information posted in the November 4th publication out of the supplement, but that is supplement to the Food Code 2022. So I think this is there is a lot of information in this particular update, and I encourage you to dive deep into going into the right link, right email, right FDA website to get this information. All right, Jim, we can get to the next slide. So in continuation to last month's FSMA update, we were talking about what it makes to prepare an audit program, an audit day for the sites. And there are so many audits. And the audits could be BRC, FSSC, IFS, SQF, Primus, GFS, and all. On top of any other bigger customer audit, the customer food safety team wanted to come and visit you guys. Or the government audits if FDA or CFIA or at any of regulatory authority is coming and getting paying a visit to get your program audited. So there are so many. And what we wanted to do in this today's FSMA Friday is to talk about internal audits, which is more answer to know why internal audit topic came up, why we need that. Is there any link of those with annual food safety audits and the overall success of the company to comply with food safety? Let's get to next slide. So actually, internal audit, why it's needed, it explains from this slide that the annual food safety audit is a marathon. It's like running with the almost like average. Any standard has around 70 pages maximum, minimum, maximum. You can call it around those, where every standard try to cover the system verification for food safety, starting from HACCP, senior management commitment, process control, product control, housekeeping, pest control, product development, supplier control, raw material control, training, education, environmental monitoring, food defense, vulnerability assessments, food frauds, and all. That means in the 2 days or 3 days, annual audit cannot get full verification of a detailed program that you need for the successful food safety. So basically, annual food safety audit is once a year snapshot, which may serve the purpose of getting certified because you may have prepared for it. But is it something that gives a full deep dive of the standards you have in place for every section pertaining to managing safe, legal, and quality food? Maybe not. So next slide, let's see what we have. And again, internal audit, it is something that is under one of the ISO auditing skills standards that required like it was installed inside the GFSI benchmark program expectation that when you have a BRC, SQF, FSSC, IFS, Primus audits, but to get to that audit, one of the expectation is that throughout the year you do something to make sure your program is being checked, evaluated, um, and it has some value to prepare towards the big audit. This is actually right way to do the to use the GFSI schemes to make the beneficial to your site. Internal audit is not like you're finding dust on the machine. It doesn't really mean that. More like, okay, I'm doing every day a GMP walk on the floor, like I'm looking for some holes on the wall. A QA can go and they find out somebody's not wearing proper hairnet. Okay, we will cite that. If there's a faucet leak at the hand washing sink, we'll cite that. So that's not an internal audit of the standard. However, it's a part of the inspection which supplements and actually complements the internal audit. So internal audit itself is like, let's pick an example that we have a little hole in the wall which is unexplained in the production area. So my GMP finding will be there's a hole in the wall. So I'll ask maintenance to go and fix it. Hopefully they listen to me and they will fix it. But at the same time, is there any program that need to be revisited when why that hole is sitting there and nobody is paying attention? So now it triggers that preventive maintenance program of the premises can be internal audited. So explaining the process of like continuously improvement, like internal audit serves the purpose of bigger picture. It is tough because I will not worry about the hole in the wall. I will worry about why there are no attention given to this. Was there anything that is missing in the program, in the directions given to that team in writing, that is not being followed? So for example, in a particular food environment, maintenance program should be there to maintain the equipment, the premises, interior and exterior, water, air supply, and everything that makes the premises and building suitable to produce food. Are that if the program is written that it shows that there is an ongoing maintenance, there is scheduled maintenance on temporary repairs, there is things that they need to do. So if I will dive into the internal audit, I will be tough. thorough and also very fair, because I'm not penalizing a person, I'm penalizing a system. I will have a challenge, I will have a right to do the question to the preventive maintenance program in that context, and also site specific, and also everybody involved in that. Like, people will start asking question like, why you are asking me question for this system when I'm only here to repair the wall? Because you are a part of the entire management system where there is a role to play which connects to the uh, a program which is required to be maintained all the time. So the involvement of sites should be at all the levels. Next slide, please. So now let's get into the internal audit. It is an unbiased evaluation. If I wrote the HACCP program, I cannot inspect and audit my HACCP program because that's my own work. So whoever will be assigned to do the HACCP program small internal audit in preparation for a bigger audit, that person should not have written, updated, or have much of the ownership of that program. It should be risk-based findings, like we are looking for consistent failure in the systems in the execution, not looking for one-off and writing those sightings. So for example, if there is a record has a missing entry for a metal detector in one of the monthly records, like I ask for a 1 full month of records of metal detector to check how they do foreign material control program. I found one that is missing, which means like, okay, this may be one missing. It's not a citing at the internal audit, but if I found a pattern of this has been missed every Wednesday at 2 p.m., there is two entries are missing consistently and has not been caught by the verifying authority, that means that's a systemic problem inside the system, that something happens at that time. Maybe the shift change, maybe the person who's covering somebody is not aware of his role. So now internal audit leads you to find a bigger problem, and that is most like a risk of missing that entry consistently on Wednesday 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. is the problem. You may be passing something with the metal in the product. So risk-based finding is as analysis you have to do in a way that you are finding bigger problems, consistent problems, system failures, which can lead into food safety issues. Then root cause analysis, like ability to find how did you actually find the why this problem happened to begin with, then you fix the problem. So internal audit leads you to think like that, like you don't want it to fix the problem because internal auditor found it, but also you want to know why this happened, why this person is not filling the form at that hour. We may need a training opportunity, maybe something is missing in the time perspective, we don't know. And then the challenging the system. And a good internal auditor should actually pick a very random records, worst case, best case scenarios from the past productions to find whether they match with what is written as an SOPs in the procedures. And you should know that you're actually reviewing the right and active procedure, not the outdated one. Next slide. Yeah, so by giving you this example, I can tell you that now you may also try to like configure that internal audit is not a checklist. It's like not like really somebody gave me a checklist and say, go do the internal audit. Internal audit cannot be boxed in a small checklist. You, as an internal auditor, should know more than that. GMP findings are a complementing, kind of supplementing the internal audits, but these are not the internal audits. However, if there is always a section for housekeeping, personal hygiene, premises, those type of sections in any standard, those are actually accepted if we show them GMP inspections we do, building premises inspections we do, then you don't have to do a particular internal audit for that part which has been done every day basically. Then the person, if you are trained as an internal auditor, you should know the flow of the process. And if you don't know the process flow, you are not a trained auditor. That means you may be missing very critical parts, or are not justifying that you can audit this section, which is process flows. And pre-audit preparation is very important, that you cannot go and drop into, let's say, production department that you wanted to do the internal audit. You have to prepare by simulating how an external auditors do, by putting a communication in place, by an emailing, requesting a time, putting a plan in place, audit agenda plan, audit agenda, and so that your auditee who you are going to audit actually aware of what is expected from him. So pre-audit preparation is a key to success for a successful internal audit. I have seen companies where other teams do not understand why you are there. Because you are under a pressure, you have to finish 4 or 5 internal audits in a year, so you will try to do that best of your abilities. But the best way and successful outcome you can expect if the auditee is well prepared with what he need to present to you guys. Next slide. So very, this is a very, basically this is a backbone of the internal audit, that the key elements are the people first. So in the people category, the competence of the internal auditor who knows his job. And also, what are the other factors that we are also looking for? Observations. People itself covers the pointers like, we have employees are expected to do certain things when they are inside the plant, the handling of the product, arriving to work. So people, whether you are the internal auditor or the employees, the supervisors, the food handlers, all of them play a very key role in the internal audits. Equipment. So if we want to do the internal audit of the equipment, we want to make sure that your auditee understand that what are you going to do there. You are looking for the training, appropriate tasks given to do the job. You should know as an internal auditor what are the different places you are going to look for things. Maybe on-site sanitation verification, sanitation effectiveness can be done on site. Maintenance records, preventive records, calibration. Materials, in terms of the handling of raw materials, semi-processed, work in progress products, and finished products. Then looking for how the product has been handled across, if they need special care about temperature controls, allergen controls, and all. Then the information like how the record keeping is undergoing in this plant, like do you have a thorough requirements about record keeping, making sure nothing is missed, and there is internal communication within the plant and external communication with the customers are happening. Means if there's a customer complaint, how that gets handled. If there is a regulatory change, how that gets implemented. If the customer requires you to do more stuff than before, let's say they wanted to start using x-ray, then they used to start do metal detector requirements, how do you implement those. And work environments, like this is where the GMP inspection comes in picture. Like every day somebody's doing pre-op inspections, every week or a day somebody's doing GMP walks, every month or bi-weekly somebody's doing the building inspections. All those checks actually uh, adds up as a positive outcome in the internal audit, so that the practical internal audit is happening on the physical, to check the physical state of the premises and building. So it's very important to understand and again, help other people understand. I always emphasize that you cannot run a successful internal audit or an audit preparation until you tell other people what you need from them. Next slide. So once you do finish the internal audit by properly calling the person, booking the scheduled time, tell them what you wanted to look for, the SOPs and all, then it may take like a few meetings. You don't want to expect that I will go and sit with the purchasing manager and in 1 hour I'll finish my supplier approval auditor or internal audit. If that person is managing suppliers and raw materials, you may have several meetings over the 2 weeks period on a little bit, and also some remote document review. You finish the audit, you behave like you are an external auditor, and you will go and send a report to the person. And the difference between the external audits and internal audit is that external auditors do not tell you the right anything good they found. They are more like they are giving you the non-conformances in addition to their report, which shows what they looked at as a proof of evidence. But internal audit has that beauty that you can actually write a whole long list of things those were right. So this gives your team members who you are auditing encouragement that, wow, I am doing so many things right. Then it's easy for them to fix the wrong things, the non-conform things. And non-conform things need to be fixed with a proper way, that their corrective actions are not weak and they are not kind of incomplete, hanging for more than certain number of days. As an internal auditor, you will give at least a reasonable time. I would give no more than like 4 weeks to close the findings, unless it's a big capital and somebody's waiting for something big to happen, like external services. But four working weekdays, 4 weeks, basically 1 month to fix the corrective actions with the proper root cause. And then you wanted to make sure that this is happening in a direction that next time when you are back to the second cycle of internal audit, you will see effectively implementation of preventive action. One of the last and very important part is that you as an internal auditor must be reviewing the internal audit findings in a summary format with the management meetings. Because there may be some input from them needed in terms of money, resources, in terms of people you want, or in terms of something to escalate, you need them. Strong internal audit programs are the key indicator that how mature your food safety culture is. If I will say a tip from my side, treat internal audit as if you are coming again as an external auditor, but in a very different setup, because you know your people, you have your working relationships, but you also have a job to do look into the system, because you're not citing the person, you are actually giving a non-conformance to the system. And system is a responsibility of everybody, including you in the plant. So how can we make sure that this is a happy, like healthy environment to do a very thorough and fair internal audit? Next slide. So, and just to reiterate why internal audits are important, my ask to the industry is always, we are doing the external audits because our bigger customers want, because somebody need to tell, oh, we are BRC, we are SQF. But there are so many good standard elements in those standards which you can use to strengthen your internal food safety management system. You can use in the benefit of running a very good, healthy food safety show of safe and quality, consistent supply of food. And you don't rely on external auditor to tell you something. And I do believe over the time, given the number of hours given for the auditor to do certain things, external auditors do not see everything. So you have to be the one to use best to your abilities, the standard, and be your own auditors by being an internal audit. Second is that you don't do the audit of your own program. You don't want to send maintenance guy to check all the temporary repairs in the plant. You want somebody else to do that. So there's a fresh eyes looking during the process, which maintenance guy may think, oh, this is not in temporary repair. It's just I will remove it tomorrow. I don't want to write it. Uh, Food safety team is under the pressure. They have to finish the internal audit in a year, and a lot of time they spend on that. If you trained your outside stakeholders like production leads, product development lead, like HR, train all of them for internal auditing, because the audit itself only needs auditing skills. The knowledge of the standard is kind of, you can actually teach them what are the different requirements this person need to audit. It's pretty much like written in the policies in the standard. As I said, use the GFSI standard not only for certification but also to improve food safety. Once you start doing internal audit in the right way, you would love this exercise, and you will engage people who are running away from you, because there are other departments who don't think food safety is their problem, although they say we know food safety culture, but they don't really. Again, as I said, as I feel that they have their own responsibilities to cover, and they keep on be there, but they're not there for food safety because their responsibilities are different. If you trained your cross functional teams and you make those allies in the other departments and have them do very healthy, tough, thorough, and fair internal audit, you will make a great food safety culture in the plant. And also, if you do somebody from outside doing internal audits for you, then you get best practices, industry practices, some more innovative ways to fix the problems. Next slide. So when audits are successful, when there is a team is trained behind it who know that what is the role, they have the allocated time to do that in that internal audit job. And second is the proper audit plan, like the plan of what are you going to do when you're going to sit with the department, or how many you should announce that how many weeks or days you will be doing this section of internal audit, and I may be looking into things, I may be reaching out for questions, I may be requesting some records, and I will be doing some notes on the standard compliance. um, and whenever we found that the design of internal audit is proper, it gets successfully done. It's not a checklist, it is moldable to the way you want, but it should cover all the elements. And findings should be supported with the proof of evidence, that if you are trying to point out on certain metal detector records not filled on every Wednesday at 2 to 3 p.m., that means you should have the record number, record reference, production room name, and everything, so that you're not throwing that as if it's like really you thought, you assume. It's really there is a proof of evidence. And proper time allocation, and the auditee team, the team who you will be audited, they should be fully on board with you. They can run away, they can find excuse, they may be genuinely busy. So how can we make sure? It's your job to actually make sure they are available if you're doing their section for the audit. Next slide. So, in order to make a very successful internal audit program, I will say you need to identify who are the team members who can be the trainable, qualified people for internal auditors. They don't have to be food safety people. They should be trainable. They know the business. They are in the plant. They do work with you, and they are part of that whole management kind of operations and management system. proper training of the what is the standard you are going to audit and what are the skills. So there are skills for open ended questions, closed ended questions, what you should say, what you should not say, what how can you bring the person's engagement to the table, that he don't restrict to share with you what you are trying to find from him or her. Conduct a thorough objective evidence based assessment. You have to follow up on the findings, like there can be short term follow up. Certain things can be fixed in a week. There can be long term follow up. There is when the capital investment needed. Make your audit program risk based. Like don't we don't need to make a laundry list of findings. If because we are doing internal audits, it can be very risk based, what makes sense. And find experts to help to build internal expertise. As I said, a trained internal auditing team can be made by like making sure you teach them auditing skills, the standards. That can be done by hiring somebody from outside to train your team. Build internal audit results as a KPIs, like how many internal audits were done, what are the findings, and all. And this is actually a very good tool for continuous improvement. Next slide. Next step is that know the potential ROI. Like it should not be an exercise because it's required for BRC audit. Return of investment for conducting a regular internal audit is to strengthen your internal system so you can be producing safe, legal, quality food with the full engagement of every department. It's not something that you're doing because you have to pass the annual audit. Ensure it's not overwhelming like exercise for anybody, including FSQA team or anybody who is part of that. If you actually create a very good cross-functional training program and collaboration with other departments, you will actually start using internal audit as a team building exercise, when not only FSQA people is going and finding the problems, there will be other departments, internal auditors will be joining you. This will help to strengthen, and they will be your voice. Sometimes they will be the problem solvers. Align on the requirements of effective preventive actions, like what are the requirements, what is the best. This is where you as a expert can say, great job done with internal audit, let's do put a preventive action plan so that your technical knowledge of food safety comes in handy to help your um, the team to put a good effective preventive action plan. Next slide. Yes, so we conclude the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any question. Thank you very much.
All right, Ranjeet, thank you so much. And this, again, is one of those topics that we know are very important. And as I said at the top of the session, sometimes it's just hard to find the needed resources and time to do this effectively. So I personally appreciated you kind of walking over some best practices and tips. Now let's dive in a little bit more, because you did have that one slide that had people, equipment, materials info, and work environment. And one question we got from Melissa here was, would you please expound on people, health screening inquiries during an audit without invasion of privacy?
Can you repeat the question? Screening, health screening. Yeah, okay. Health screening. Okay. Um, would you please expand health screening inquiries? Right. So health screening without invasion of privacy. This is also it's a very touchy one, tricky one, because if I will do the audits in one country, there is even they allow employees to submit their health report by doing proper physical checks, doc blood work and all. And there are some countries where we cannot ask the question that are you sick. So really it's in both ways. So based on the local legislative requirements, we should design the health screening in a way that it can be simple, like a questionnaire saying, do you have any illness that you want to declare? Have you traveled anywhere where there was a concern and that can lead into contamination here? or you have any issues that you think will be required to be reported. Like some people will have a certain issues, they need a medical bracelet to adapt to get attended quickly on the production floor. If we don't know, how can we help? So really it depends on the intelligence of the food safety human resources teams to identify what is the best way to get the health screening based on your local city, country, legislative requirements about human rights and all. um, there is no one straight answer for that. It's more like how can we design something that you still be able to serve the purpose, that your food is not getting contaminated by somebody who can be contaminating due to health issues. Or second is, if the person itself is not that sick that he can hurt himself while he's doing the job, which is
Mhm.
also is the health and safety part. Yeah, it's all about how HRs and QAs do the design of that program.
Interesting. Okay. Let's keep on that that one slide again, people, equipment, materials, info, and work environment. You had mentioned, at least underneath the information section, that operators really do need to have the right information and that it has to be up to date. Would you say that that would be a pretty common challenge?
You mean the operator information sharing with the operator is a challenge?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is, and that's very common because uh, sometimes certain levels of management, like managers, supervisors, leads, they feel that this information is not required for them. So like I have seen one of the company where there was an environmental positive listeria in a plant somewhere on the drain. Everybody know, but the line technician who is checking the QC part was not aware of that, because his job was not to check the drains, but his job was to check the product. So I disagree with the approach, because if this is the a plant, it depends where the issue is happening. Then it should be it should be actually one second. Sorry, there was some disturbance. So then information sharing, it should be very important for based on the site specific, like where this incident is happening and how many people should know at what level.
Right.
It's not a hierarchy that the manager should know and technician should not. Yeah, that's a bigger problem I have seen.
And that kind of ties back to, I guess, the theme of proper training and then creating allies in other departments. So underneath, and you had a slide around challenges where you said review findings with management. So it almost seems like this is a company-wide effort, kind of underneath the umbrella of that food safety culture.
Mhm. Yes, it is. If management is not aware that there are two departments, one is auditing, other is being audited, and have some findings, you may not. And again, having them somewhat aware about those things can help both departments and help management to give their part in there.
Mhm.
It's not happening sometimes. When we don't communicate, we think we'll say, oh yeah, internal audit is done. What do you mean done? Like, I think if I am the senior management, I'll ask the question, what were the findings, what did you find, how did you
Right.
fix? It's really important.
Yes. And to that same point, though, I'm going back to the training part because you have to train management as well, not necessarily to do an audit, but to think about food safety, think about really how you can make this part of your KPIs. I think you brought that up. Food safety in terms of certification, or food safety in terms of obviously like reducing customer complaints. There are many benefits for conducting these things. So it's really training upper management around the ROI or benefits for something like regular internal audits. Um, Going back to there's a question actually here from Vesna. She wants to know what would be a good way to audit food safety culture. We have gotten this question on a few webinars, and it is a good one. It's tough.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, a food safety culture audit, it should be done in a different tiers. If I would do that, it's a very interesting audit. It's really, there's no any kind of SOP for that. Like, you have to design it. It's like, I wanted to talk to the senior management, the president, at my own time to find out what he or she sees the food safety culture in his mindset or her mindset. Second is different tiers of management together, one group. Then asking questions, interviewing properly, as well as giving them some feedback, some forms they need to fill to show, like, sometimes when they write something, okay, I think my role in the food safety is to pay the salaries or to make sure, like, things like how you come up with certain tricky picky questions so that you get best out of them. So another thing is understanding what company has invested on food safety since last whatever frequency. You can go back and see
Yeah.
how many times managers think, oh, let's change the all hand washing sinks. They're not good because I washed hand this morning, it didn't come out good. So things
Mm,
like those, right? So it's really not a it's a really soft topic but a very hard topic. But you have to do starting from the top management. If you
yeah.
start looking into people at the floor, these people may not stay longer. They will leave to go do somewhere else jobs, right? So why we have to fix the problem from the top down, not bottom to up.
Right, right. Um, speaking of washing your hands, you mentioned earlier looking for consistent failures, not just one-offs. And I like how you call it system failures. That's a good way of putting it, because a system is ongoing. It doesn't stop. So that may be hard again to an untrained eye. So that internal audit training is going to be critical. So I guess a question for you is, what resources, maybe TAG has a section on the website that offers this, or you can provide some information where people can go to help get training materials for internal teams.
Yeah. So basically, internal audit training comes into two sections, not only one. One is the section that which standard you are going to be auditing. Like if your factory is SQF,
Hmm.
BRC, or FSSC, or you are doing a customer audit, or you are not having anything, but you need to do a general food safety system. So that's one part. Then the second one is that auditing skills. Sometimes internal auditor know everything about system, but they don't know how to talk to people about it.
Right.
They may make people upset with the first question. So what tag is capable to do is to give the tools in terms of what to audit, the standard at the high level. Like if I have to go for raw material supplier approval section, what my strategy should be to ask the what questions, which SOPs, which forms I will ask. Second is how do I ask so that I'd get the best information. So auditing skills and auditing standards, these two things we can do uh, uh, basically specific to that site. So they are full prepared. Like then we may want to do one mock internal audit with them so they
Right.
can be fully trained, and we hold their hand until closing the corrective actions. So it gives a full cycle of full internal audit completed under the supervision, and it's kind of calibrated internal audit happens.
Mm. Okay. This I love this question. Stephanie just asked, how would you advise to handle internal audits with a small operation of team leaders who are always unavailable to meet with you? Isn't that a classic case? Do you
Yeah,
think
it
it can
is.
be done through email exchanges, for example, to request documents, and then the auditor could come to the area inspection? Uh, yeah, it's all about time and capacity, isn't it?
It is. If it's a question of the capacity, you can always hire somebody from outside to do those. But if you are able to do that, but you have people are kind of not available, you need to change your strategy of internal audit. There is no any standard requires that internal audit has to be in person sitting there in front of them.
Right.
You can send a long standard, like let's say again raw materials prior specification supplier approval section, and purchasing manager is one who's managing it. I will send the highlighted section of that whole thing of BRC or whichever standard to him or her, saying,
Right.
this is the standard you are responsible for. I'm going to come and audit it. And I will have a question around this, that how you meet that requirement. So you gave the ownership to that person and said, give me a suitable date. If they are not available, oh, I'm not available, then fine. Do you agree to having me send you a list of documents I would ask? You kind of narrow down to the level where he still gets you what you want, but there is an ultimate one closing meeting at the end saying, okay, when we can meet and go over the details. So to make sure I don't mark something wrong, like I want to make sure my audit is fair despite you are not available. So you
Right.
have to find a way to do that.
Yes. But it goes back to communication. So informing, again, just beyond your team, if you're in FSQA or other department, it's really getting those alliances, keeping the lines of communication open, letting people know when the audit is expected to happen, how long it'll happen, what their part in the audit is, etc. So
Yeah,
overall,
and
yeah,
Jim, I think one more point in here is that open-ended and closed-ended questions. Like this is where auditing skill part comes in handy. When we go and ask a question, okay, do you have a list of all the suppliers? Answer is yes. Okay, do you keep all suppliers up to date with with their requirements? Yes. So really, how we wanted to make sure we ask the question which leads into him or her to explain more. Or
mhm,
my approach should be that standard requires once a year all the suppliers have to be confirmed with their required updated if there is a requirement for audits, questionnaire, or letter of guarantee. Can we take a look into some of the high risk suppliers documents? So now my question is more about, I'm not asking, standard is asking, this is what he's asking.
right.
And can we look into those? I narrowed down 5 instead of laundry list of suppliers. So really you have to know how to question the people, how to bring them engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And not an easy thing to do. And it
Uh-huh.
really does involve a little bit of relationship building. So,
It is, yeah.
yeah. I think you even mentioned you can kind of make it a game, or you can make it something of like a company-wide challenge or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be fun
it can be
as it
fun. Yeah.
also pertains to making safe food and the other benefits such as reducing risks or customer complaints, etc. So.
I think you can do team activities. Like if you have to do my department internal audit, what you will ask me. So kind of more challenging yourself and see what other people see and they will come open. Yeah.
Yep, I love it. All right, I do not see any other new questions coming in, so we'll just leave you all with some information. If you want more information about auditing, of course, the Acheson Group are the experts. You can head on over to their website at achesongroup.com, or you can head on over to Safety Chain's website, where we have worked with the Acheson Group to create a bunch of materials, and there's a lot of them when it comes to audit readiness and internal audits. So do check that out at safetychain.com. Ranjeet, thank you again for swooping in and saving the day on today's FSMA Friday. You rock. We love you. And of course, we're going to look forward to having you back. So, hey, if you're in the United States, everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving
Yeah.
ahead. And we will absolutely see you on next month's FSMA Friday. Thank you all and have a great weekend.
Thank you all. Bye.
Take care.